Uhuru. Uhuru, welcome
Uhuru.
everyone to the Reparations Study Group. My name is Jackson, a very proud member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. I'm here with our National Chair, Jesse Nevel, co-host, Uhuru. And we have a very special guest tonight, Malika Alexander, the Midwest Regional Representative of the African People's Socialist Party and member of the African National Women's Organization. Uhuru, Malika.
Uhuru!
Uhuru, it's an honor to have you on here as our guest.
Thank you so much for asking me.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
So, for those who are just tuning in for the first time to this Reparations Study Group, welcome. Uhuru means freedom in Swahili, and we are called on to use that word and solidarity by the African People's Socialist Party. The African People's Socialist Party is our leadership. They formed us, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, with the strategy of forwarding the African Revolution inside the belly of the beast, inside the white community, the oppressor nation. So we as white people can be in solidarity with African liberation, with all African people, all oppressed peoples, by coming under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party and organizing in the white community for reparations, for material solidarity, putting the money where our mouth is, so to speak, and forwarding the call for white people like ourselves to join this movement. And in fact, we're having a recruitment membership drive right now. And you can, if you are not a member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, you can ask your questions all in the comments. There's a call-in number as well. I encourage you to go to uhurusolidarity.org and join this movement. It's the only organization of white people under the leadership of the African Revolution organizing for reparations. So I encourage you to check us out and to join this movement. And so the Reparations Study Group, we study the Burning Spear newspaper, which is the news organ of the African People's Socialist Party. This is from the perspective of the African working class, the theory of African internationalism, the political theory that not just explains the world, but shows how we can change that and be in true material solidarity with all oppressed peoples and forward a real socialist movement. That will create the liberation of all peoples and the planet from this horrible social system that is destroying everything. So today we are reading page 3 of the February edition of the Burning Spear newspaper. This is an article written by Malika Alexander, who we have on our call tonight. It's called "The Emancipation of African Women Means the Destruction of Capitalism." And so I'm glad to be going over this article on page 3 of your February issue. But before we go into our article, I want to appreciate everyone who is tuning in on here. Let me see here. We have people on YouTube, and I encourage everyone to comment saying where you're tuning in from so we can see, all the people who are members of and supporters of this movement tuning in from everywhere. I know that Virginia Wilson is tuning in from Louisville, Kentucky, Leah Fifield from Minneapolis, Johan Bedingfield from Clearwater, Florida. My Facebook is being a little slow, so I know there's other people tuning in on Facebook. Let me see here. Santosh from St. Petersburg, Florida. I know many others who I can't quite see yet. Nina Guevara, Uhuru. So I just want to appreciate all of you. And after we read the article and interview Malika, you can call us at 727-537-9171 to ask your questions or make your comments voice to voice. You can also just leave it in the chat and we'll read them as well. So I just went through a lot. So I want to open up, our Chair Jesse, do you have anything you would like to add?
Uhuru, I just want to say it's a great honor to have the Midwest Regional Representative
Yes.
of the African People's Socialist Party,
Great honor.
Malika Alexander. Really appreciate the opportunity to hear from Malika on the program tonight, and it's an amazing article. It's very powerful. It's really important for us to study it and
Yes.
in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. And I also want to shout out all of you who are tuning in, and especially those of you who tune in every single week. We appreciate you. We appreciate the people who consistently attend the Reparations Study Group. And anyone who's tuning in for the first time, welcome, and I hope that by the end of tonight's study, you will go to uhurusolidarity.org and become a member of the Reparations Organization of White People in Solidarity with Black Liberation.
Uhuru, Chair Jesse, thank you. And I want to appreciate Chairwoman Penny Hess, who is tuning in, the Chairwoman of the African People's Solidarity Committee, our direct leadership in USM under the African People's Socialist Party. And I'm self-critical. I want to salute, our entire leadership, the National Central Committee of the African People's Socialist Party, obviously Chairman Amalia Shatella, featured right here on his latest book, Vanguard, The Advanced Attachment of the African Revolution. There's an entire chapter on the regional strategy of the movement that we'll be discussing a little bit on this episode. I really encourage you to get this book at Burning Spear Marketplace. And salute Deputy Chair Onezanea Shatella, who leads all of the economic work that all the reparations we raise go to. And every member of the National Central Committee of the African People's Socialist Party, including Akile Anai, who is the editor-in-chief of the newspaper and the director of agitation and propaganda for the African People's Socialist Party. Of course, our esteemed guest, Malika Alexander, as the Midwest Regional Representative of the African People's Socialist Party. And I do want to say that, saluting Chairwoman Penny Hess, I encourage you to also get her book, Overturning the Culture of Violence, really goes into how we as white people can overturn our own culture, white power, overturn our culture of violence. So again, Burning Spear Marketplace, our moderators are putting the links in the comments. And also salute our National Chair, Jesse Nevel. Uhuru. Uhuru. And we have some comments. Chairwoman Penny Hess says, Uhuru, salute to APSP Regional Rep Malika Alexander. Uhuru. And Vanessa Areco says, Uhuru. Uhuru. Wonderful.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody.
Yes, thank you for tuning in. Uhuru.
Shall we dive in?
We shall. So this is page 3 of your February issue of the Burning Spear newspaper. I think Chair Jesse's holding the March issue. So we... this one here, it's okay. This one here, is so. If I know you're, many of you may not be able to read along, so just listen close. The photo of it shows all the leading African women in the National Central Committee of the African People's Socialist Party: Dr. Aisha Fields, Deputy Chair Onezanea Shatella, in PDM, President Kalambaya Ananet, Yejide Mila, and Akile Anai. And yeah, so I really appreciate, again, Malika Alexander for being on this call, and excited to hear you read this article. Uhuru. Uhuru, is there anything you would like to say before we go in?
I'm excited. I'm sorry to hear you.
I'm sorry, is there anything you would like to say before we go into the article?
I'm excited about this opportunity as well. Excited about being in on the study and just to be able to speak up and say something, about animal and about, the life of an African woman. Mm-hmm. And about, when you talk about emancipation, then you're talking about, breaking free from some things. And so I'm glad to be able to share what that means to those of us that are a part of the African People's Socialist Party, and those that we are reaching out to, and that we are trying to take the theory to, and what it will mean to them to know what it means, to understand, why and how they're in the situations that they are in, and to know that there is a solution, and it's not just a solution that somebody breathed up in their head, or somebody laid down and woke up and said, okay, well, I think this will work. This is a proven theory, yes. And the science behind it speaks for itself. So I'm excited to be here. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Uhuru. Excited to go over this article with you. All right.
What's that? So are we ready to read?
Already.
We're ready.
Uhuru.
Okay. It says more and more petty bourgeois or petty boo, as they say, African women are being held up by the bourgeois and black petty bourgeois for their ability to assimilate into colonial culture. Radical petty boo women, colonized women who advocate for social justice within capitalism become pundits on white people's news shows, while the rank and file petty boo measured their success in first black woman too, and you fill in the blank. These women, however, are the minority of African women. The majority of African women's reality is broadcast across the airways. We are left to believe that we are isolated in our struggle, that are as a result of colonial exploitation and oppression, when the truth is that we are united by our struggles. Colonialism and slavery is what divided us. Fighting colonial domination is what will unite us. Colonialism is in the everyday lives of African women. Life under colonial domination and oppression is fought with contradictions for African people. African women are often left to bear the brunt of the responsibility in our communities. African women have endured centuries of kidnap, rape, other abuse, and death, watching the hope for our futures be snatched away. Today's state violence and horizontal violence, black-on-black violence, often keep the streets protesting the death of one of too many Africans. Always lurking, this monster, colonialism, invades our lives in any way possible. Our families are destroyed by mass incarceration. Children are taken by child protective services. We are being pushed out of our homes and neighborhoods, and our minds are destroyed as we self-medicate just to cope. The state is the military, police, courts, prisons, and schools. Their sole purpose of existence is repression and to project the existing social system through coercion. The beast is cruel, unfair, deranged, depraved, and parasitic. But through the eyes of African internationalism, the political theory that explains how we can change the world, we see past all of that. We recognize our oppressors for who they are, and we classify them by name. We are waging war, and our message is clear. We are coming for you. Amwell is setting the stage for the true emancipation of women. There is a different sound rising as the African National Women's Organization steps forward as the voice of the African working class woman. We are taking a stand, and armed with the revolutionary theory of practice, we are emerging as the only organization for black women that actually exposes and organizes around the core contradictions of our oppression, colonialism. We recognize that other movements don't address the real issues that impact the lives of people. So we don't make the only claim lightly. Feminists and other African women activists would rather hold parades that say black women lead, stage a die-in, and bask in the glory of their own sense of self-importance. Meanwhile, we will not organize against the assault on African mothers fighting to get their children back in their custody. We will not organize prison rides to support African women or men in prison. They will not organize revolutionary child care collectives. They will not support African women who, with deep contradictions brought on by colonialism. But AMWO is building our strength and strategy because we see an end to African oppression. We realize Band-Aids will not work. We must deal with the symptoms not with the symptoms, but with the disease. Animal knows why this is happening to us, and we know we must educate and organize the women affected, as well as other African women or men that understand that we are in a position to win. We believe that we must make a revolution, and that is the only solution. We believe that African women are more than capable of leading, always willing and determined to fight for our own. For the women of Amwo, fear is not a recognized emotion. The weight of imperialism is constantly upon our shoulders, and standing by and by waiting for someone we are not waiting for someone else to rescue us. That is not an option. The time is now. We are organizing with African women around the world. It's time for African women to unite. We must see liberation in our lifetime. Annual Black Women's Convention charts the way. Join the African National Women's Organization at our Black Women's Convention, scheduled for March 27th through the 29th in Philadelphia. It is a gathering of poor and working class Black women who believe that a better world is possible. The purpose of the convention is to encourage discussion. There will be workshops that will challenge, excite, and organize working class African women under our own leadership. The convention will bring together women from across the African diaspora to get on the agenda, which is to create a new society where the leadership of Black women is integral to its success. Our theme, Sisters United for the Revolution, envisions a near future where Black women from all over the world connect with and support each other in our efforts to shape a new world. The Black Women's Convention will be intergenerational socialist event that will sharpen Black women awareness and deepen our concepts of freedom with strategies to get there. We look forward to building new sisterhoods. Although our organization is organized under the leadership of poor and working class women, who oftentimes are the voiceless, we are inclusive of all Black women regardless of income level. This is a space for young women, mothers, aunties, sisters, cousins, grandmothers, daughters, including those who are gender non-conforming. The African National Women's Organization is a membership-based socialist organization for Black women who recognize our responsibility to plan, educate, and organize African women to take our rightful place in history as markers and shapers of a new, free African society where oppressed African people in general and African women who suffer a double oppression will eradicate all oppression and achieve self-determination. We call on you to stand up, roll up your sleeves, and take up your responsibility as a maker and shaper of a new society for African people. Visit conventionamwoahuru.org to register or call us at 240-326-3959. Up, you mighty African warrior women. Join us in Philadelphia.
Uhuru. I want to echo T'Challa Masimba, who commented, profound. Uhuru. Salute T'Challa, member of the African People's Socialist Party and the director of the Black Power Blueprint under Deputy Chair Nezatella. So to salute T'Challa and just I thoroughly unite. It's very profound,
Yes,
and just thank you so much, Malika. Really appreciate you. We have some prepared questions, but I want to invite everyone viewing to ask your questions, make your comments, whether on Facebook or YouTube. And you can call us also at 727-537-9171. That number is also in the comments. And we want to, hear from you. And this study is the place to ask your questions about the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. Ask your questions for our guest Malika. This is a place for you. Yes, Chair Jesse.
Uhuru, yeah, I just wanted to salute
Yes.
that incredible article from Midwest Regional Representative of the African People's Socialist Party, Malika Alexander, and I also want to salute the leadership of ANWO, President Yejide Oramila,
Yes.
and the amazing convention that's coming up in Philadelphia. Excuse me, I grab this mic. And I just wanted to just appreciate this article, and I United is extremely profound. And just to quickly say, before we go into our interview, that I think it's really important for white people who are part of this reparations study group to know about the conditions of African women and to understand that the assault on African women, the rape of African women, the colonial violence and terror against African women has been part and parcel of the overall colonial assault on Africa and African people that we as white people have carried out and from which we have benefited and been complicit for hundreds of years. And this is part of the basis for reparations to African people, reparations to African women, reparations to all African people. And instead of chasing white-led, opportunist, Me Too movement type movements that are really about making imperialism a nicer, safer place for certain sectors of white society, any of us who are offended by any kind of gender-based oppression have to unite under the leadership of the African Revolution, of the African working class, including African women, who are fighting to destroy the root from which all other forms of oppression in this society flow. And that is parasitic capitalism, colonialism, the national oppression of African people that built this entire filthy world economic system of capitalism. So we owe reparations to African people.
Yes.
We owe reparations to African women. And we have a responsibility as white people to join the Uhuru Solidarity Movement and to fight for reparations and to support the African National Women's Organization, to support the convention, to donate to it, and to participate in building solidarity with the liberation of African people.
Uhuru, Chair Jesse, I really want to appreciate that and just unite. This is an entire, our white culture of violence, our white society, the entire world capitalist system is built on slavery and genocide and rape and has used African women's wombs, African women's bodies to build this system, their labor, exploited, the stealing of their children, the kidnapping of their husbands, all of these things. And just really want to unite with that it can't just be, for a white person to be in solidarity with the liberation of African women and African people, it can't just be talk. We have to really take a stand and make material change. So I just really want to unite with that. Uhuru. Malika, I just, again, we really want to appreciate you for, being our guest and reading that article. And I wanted to go into our questions, but I also want to say, I want you to feel free to say anything that you want to add to this conversation as well. And also, well, first of all, is there anything you would like to say before we go into our prepared questions?
No, I just want to, Jesse mentioned it earlier, and I do want to salute the president of AMWO as well, President yesterday. I want to salute DC owners Zane Yeshatala and all of the other African women that are in leadership in the African People's Socialist Party, because these are women that have taken this question of womenship very seriously and have stepped into position and are making, some serious waves in the capitalist world by the work that they're doing. And so I just wanted to salute them as we move forward in this interview.
Uhuru. All right. So for our questions, I wanted to begin with, there's two places at least that say, there's one paragraph, the Black Women's Convention will be an intergenerational socialist event that will sharpen Black women's awareness and deepen our concepts of freedom with strategies to get there. And also, near the end, it says, the African National Women's Organization is a member-based socialist organization for Black women. And I just wanted to ask, could you say more about why ANWO's convention is so important to forwarding socialism?
Yeah, I sure can. First of all, as you said, ANWO is a membership-based organization. We're the only gender-specific part movement in our movement, but it is set aside for African women, because African women have been America, everything, not just America, but everything has been built on the back of the African woman. Yeah. And there is no place in history that you can go that she has not touched, and you cannot see her handprint, her footprint anywhere in the world and see that. And so as this organization is formed, then the name of it is the Black Women's Convention, because we're reaching out to women all over the world. If you consider yourself a Black woman, they're saying that you need to come and you need to be in the midst of other Black women. And I guarantee you that there are some women that are going to come that are not going to know what to expect, but they're coming simply because they identify as being a Black woman. But then if you look further and you look at the theme that we've chosen, we said Sisters United for the Revolution. So that means that after these women come together as Black women, then when they come inside the walls of that convention, now we ain't just women, we sisters, and we're uniting for specific cause, and we're going to have people inside that movement and inside that convention that are going to begin to speak to everything that we as sisters need to come against and fight against. It's going to be some things talked about in that room that you can't talk about with nobody but Black women, because that's the only one that's going to understand. You know what I'm saying? And actually put it out there and get us to the point where we get past looking at how we different and realizing how we are the same, and the way we are the same is not ever going to change. What makes us different can change tomorrow. You can be living on that side of the track, and I'm living over here in the ghetto, and your house can burn down. You can lose your job, and then you'd be right back over here in the ghetto with me. But if you were born a Black woman, you're going to be a Black woman today. You're going to be one tomorrow. You're going to be one next year. So let us come together on that fact that we're Black women.
Uhuru, thank you. And we have a comment from Virginia Wilson. I saw Comrade Midwest Regional Rep of APSP Malika Alexander on the APSP live stream of the plenary earlier this year. Yeah, amazing presentation. Really appreciate this article. Also, salute to ANWO. Uhuru. I just want to unite with that. So, Malika, I wanted to ask, obviously you are, completely committed to the African Revolution, and I wanted to ask you, is there anything you would like to tell us about why you joined the Uhuru movement?
Yeah, in the last question, you alluded to something about a social movement, mm-hmm. and socialism is all about us taking control of, everything that has something to do with us. And so the Uhuru movement and the African People Socialist Party is just about that. we're about buying our own, caring for our own, building our own, policing our own, everything. And so that whole concept of, us, the things that we need to be able to do for ourselves, that right there, it speaks to the heart of an African woman, because I don't know too many African women that don't grow up with the idea that, you take care of your own. I don't care at all costs, and you just gonna figure it out. As African women, a lot of times we have to figure out the answer before anybody ever tells us the question, because that's just how life happens for us. But we're able to do that, and then we've already come up with the answer because we didn't really have time to stop and analyze this and everything. So we're just doing what we do, and then later on, when the question comes, then we go, okay. But as we're indoctrinated into the theory of African internationalism, and we began to understand the science of it, and we began to understand capitalism and imperialism and all of those different type of things, then we may not have all the answers at that moment, but I guarantee you the questions make more sense.
Uhuru. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, and it's so true for anyone, including white people, I think, that this movement has the answers that we're looking for, and we can be part of, the solution to creating the kind of world that we want to see, and to, as Chair Jesse and I discussed earlier, for white people to take a genuine stand with African women, with African people, because we see the absolute terror. And, that's why so many of us, join different organizations or do different hashtags, because we are looking for the answer of how to be in solidarity. So I just really want to salute the African People's Socialist Party for creating USM, and really appreciate, Malika, you laying out the significance of this movement and why you joined. So the next question is similar to, it ties into what Virginia Wilson commented about in terms of your role as the African People's Socialist Party's Midwest regional representative, sitting on the National Central Committee of the party. I wanted to see if you could tell us, a little bit about the African People's Socialist Party's regional strategy that you presented incredibly on at their plenary at the beginning of February. And, what are the plans for the Midwest region that you represent and lead? So I wonder if you could, tell us a little bit about, the regional strategy and how you are implementing that in the Midwest.
Uhuru. Yeah, we just came out of our first plenary to the 7th Congress, and the chairman laid out dynamic mandates for every area of the party of how we need to move forward and begin to expand, expand the party, expand our reach and everything, and just really get on top of every opportunity. And that is really what the regional strategy is about. That is where the work of the party is taken, outside the walls, and it's actually put out there in the world by, the various regions, because the African People's Socialist Party, we're located everywhere. And because we're organized, then we're divided into 4 regions, and our mandate is to build units and local party organizations everywhere that we are. Well, African people are everywhere. And so we're going out into the world, and we're looking at the vision that has been laid out for us, and we're seeing it with different kind of eyes, because we're able to now go into certain situations and not just look at one particular person, but look at a group of people and look at what we can do if we can if we can get one person out of that group that we can notice is a leader, and then we can bring them into what we're doing, and then we can get them to go back and talk to the people that they're in the community with every day. They live the same life. Sometimes you got to go get it where you live. And so they live the same life. They talk the same language. They got the same issues, and they want the same solutions. And so we began to organize under the auspices of that right there, and the people will unite on stuff that affects them directly. And so that is the regional strategy, that as we go out, that the regional leaders are picking out leaders to work with them on their committees, and then they're going out and we're looking for people. We're looking for Africans everywhere to give them, not just teach them how to eat, but teach them how to fish. Let them know the world, this is ours right here, and we can show you how to obtain it. So the regional strategy is about build, build, build. It's about recruit, recruit, recruit. It's about grow, grow, grow. It's about vision, vision, vision. It's about seeing past where you are to where we can be. It's about looking past the world as we see it now and seeing it as it could be. Chairman O'Malley Satella said, it's not enough to know what's going on in the world. We have to know how we can transform it. And through that, we can do it with the regional strategies. Uhuru.
Uhuru. I really want to appreciate that, Malika, and just want to unite with that and how significant it is to build on the ground, to organize where we are, and with USM being an extension, of the Uhuru movement, implementing the African People's Socialist Party strategy, even in even the solidarity sector, and also our unity with all of the campaigns of the Uhuru movement at large, and forwarding that, building branches, recruiting. We're having a recruitment drive. So I just want to remind our viewers, you can go to uhurusolidarity.org and join. And you also mentioned earlier, Malika, the African people, preparing to govern, to police yourselves, to have control over your food, clothing, housing, produce, and have commerce. And one of our moderators posted in the Facebook, and I'll be posting it in the YouTube shortly, that you can support ANWO. All of us can, by purchasing Decolonase products at decolonase.com, and I use them every single day throughout the day on hair, skin, etc. And it's really powerful to be able to support the African Revolution and the liberation of African women by using things that we use every day, shea butter, hair products, etc. So I'll put the link in there as well. So I really want to appreciate that. And we also have some more people tuning in. Mads Ambrose from the who leads USM in Portland and in the Western region. So salute Mads. And Johan from Clearwater says Uhuru.
Uhuru, Johan.
Uhuru. All right. And so I really want to appreciate your answer, Malika. And I also want to ask, a lot of white people, as Chair Jesse alluded to this earlier, a lot of us white people become feminists because we want to be progressive. We want to take a stand on, the violence that we see. And feminism is what we're presented with. The Me Too movement is what we're presented with, as if you want to be progressive, you do this. But ANWO, we know, rejects feminism. I wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about why ANWO and the Uhuru movement rejects feminism.
Feminism really does. Feminism really doesn't. People that are feminists, they want to make a big show about whatever it is that they're doing, for a certain cause, so that when it's all over, then, the glory can come back towards them and, begin to oh, look what we did, this and that, and this and that. But it does nothing to actually deal with the root causes of what is being thought here, nor is it offering any solutions for it. It's just another way of people getting self-glory. And on the other hand, is rolling up its sleeves and saying, no, we all in this together. This is not your fight. I'm not taking on your fight so that I can get recognition for me for your fight. No, we're doing this for all, because if you're not free, I'm not free. If my girlfriend is having a hard time over there, I'm having a hard time. That's the whole thing. Sisters united for the revolution. And so, this is not a feminist movement. And so, when you come in here, then you're not going to find any signs of that. You're going to find a sisterhood, but you're going to find sisters that know rank order. You're going to find sisters that know how to organize and put things together and get things done. You're going to find that. So, not to say we don't organize, or we might go somewhere and sit in, but believe you to me that we're not doing it for the same purpose.
Right.
Uhuru.
Yeah, I appreciate I really appreciate what Malika's saying, and I completely unite. And yeah, I just really appreciate the analysis of the African People's Socialist Party and the chairman, Chairman Amali Shatella, and the African National Women's Organization. And one of the things that the chairman has said, and President Yejide Oramila has also put this out, this understanding that the world is divided between the oppressor and oppressed nations. And, like President Yejide says, there's no such thing as women in general.
Yes.
And I think what you just said, Malika, just really shows that like the struggle of African women is on a completely different trajectory from the self-serving struggles normally associated with the white feminist or bourgeois feminist movement, which, as the chairman says, is redundant to even call it that. But I just really unite with that, and I think it's really important to understand that all white people sit on the pedestal of the oppression of African people and the genocide against the indigenous people of this land. All white people, including white men, obviously white men. I mean, everybody knows that because we have played such an active role in the colonization of African people and the pillage and murder of African and indigenous people that imperialism is sometimes referred to as the white man. Mm-hmm. But also, the white man is also white women.
Yes. And
all white people have not just benefited from the oppression of African people, but have been champions of it. And there's a book that I know Anwa was studying called They Were Her Property, about the huge numbers of white women who owned enslaved African people.
I believe 40%.
Yeah.
Of all slave owners were white women.
Yeah, and most of the time, if a white man owned African people as his enslaved property, if he died, his daughter, his wife, would inherit it.
Like George Washington.
Inherit the property, quote unquote. Yeah. So this is, the stuff from which capitalism emerged, as the chairman says, the most despicable things that human beings can do to other human beings. And white women and white men found a way to work out their gender inequality when it came to lynching African people, murdering African people, oppressing and colonizing African people. So I just totally unite with what you said, Malika, and it's just a great honor to have a place in the Uhuru Solidarity movement for white people, white women, white men, all white people, to join and fight for reparations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and based on what you were just saying, though, about the things that have happened to African women over the course of time, the rapes and, being bed warmers and for the slave masters, just all the different things that you mentioned. Yeah. I do want to speak to the fact that, even through the midst of all of that, then African women never took the role of being a victim.
Right.
She always took the role of strength, and turned that bad situation into something else, because that's what we do. Just like even in this day and time, when something happens in the white community and a white child gets killed, and then that white mother, she's able to go and to check herself into some fancy hospital for them to give her some medication or whatever to help her cope with the death of her child.
Right.
As an African woman, I don't have that luxury. Because I have other kids that I have to deal with, and so I have to learn how to put the death of Ray Ray somewhere.
Right.
And make it a strength to me, and let that forge my path to go on and to fight some more. Right. That song says, I'll rise up 1,000 times again. An African woman will rise up 1,000 times. Why will she rise up 1,000 times? Because that's just what we do.
Uhuru. Yes, thank you.
I really want to unite with that, Malika. I really appreciate that. And I think it's definitely, it just highlights the huge difference, between, the colonizer and the colonized, and that, the colonizer, we have a culture of putting ourselves in the center and, putting our subjective feelings, far above anything else, when, what we need to do is join the revolution and, fight for the liberation of all of us through the Afghan Revolution, and that there is just absolutely no excuse that a white person can give for not taking that stand. So I know we're short on time, so I want to get to our last question. We have a comment from Virginia Wilson. We have been saying, as a white woman, Virginia saying, we have been complicit in the oppression of African women. Reparations are due, and I unite with that. Yes. So our last question of our prepared questions. So for our viewers, you can still ask yours. What can you tell us about the leadership of African women in the African People's Socialist Party? What can you tell us about, how the African People's Socialist Party, that it has the leadership of African women in it?
The women leadership of the African People's Socialist Party is phenomenal.
Yes.
These women are at the top of their game, in the forefront of everything, and they're just brilliant women who have, and each of them has a true gifting in their own right, and just to stand shoulder to shoulder with them, and these are not people that, have come through life and just all of a sudden they couldn't find nothing else to do, so they decided to do this. These are people that, had made some kind of mark in the colonial world at some point. But as they came into the knowledge and truth of some things and came into African internationalism, then they were able to take a stand for who they were as African women and join the revolution, join the fight to bring their talents and their gifts and their knowledge and their expertise and everything to the table, so that we can, further what's needed for our own people. A lot of times people say, you hear people all the time talking about, African women just want a seat at the table. African women just want the seat at the table. What the women in the African People's Socialist Party, we're saying, no, you ain't got to give us no seat at the table. Forget it. We'll bring our own damn table.
Nice. Uhuru. Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate you, Malika, and just salute you, the entire leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. And is there anything that you would like to add before we go into announcements? Chair Jesse, anything you would like to add as well?
I would just like to say again, AMWO, the African National Women's Organization, is the baddest organization on the planet.
Yes.
And the Black Women's Convention, March 27th through 29th in Philly, is going to be off the chain.
Yes.
And everybody needs to make their way there. And it is just such a great honor to be here. Thank you.
Uhuru. Thank you,
Uhuru.
Malika. Uhuru. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the Midwest Regional Representative of the African People's Socialist Party, Malika, once again. Thank you so much for being on this
Thank
program.
you.
It was a great honor to have you, and very powerful and insightful, and I think everybody really benefited from it who was able to participate in this study. And I just want to remind all of our faithful viewers that we are in the midst of preparing to embark on a week-long reparations recruitment drive.
Yes.
So you don't have to wait for the reparations recruitment drive to officially begin on Monday night, March 9th, to start recruiting, or if you're not a member, to join, to become a member of the only organization of white people on the planet Earth that works under the leadership of the African Revolution to fight for reparations to African people. Join the fight for reparations to African people today. Join the movement in solidarity with Black Power. Become a member at uhurusolidarity.org. Become a recruiter at uhurusolidarity.org/recruit. And tune in to our web show Monday night, March 9th, with Chairman Omalia Shatella, founder and leader of the Uhuru movement, and Penny Hess, the chairwoman of the African People's Solidarity Committee, at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Uhuru Solidarity Movement's Facebook and YouTube channels. That's going to be the kickoff for our week-long reparations recruitment drive. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you, Chair Jesse. And I know that you have to get going, so I encourage everyone to read all the announcements that were put in the comments. Most of them are what Chair Jesse just laid out. There's a few other ones as well. Check them out and join at uhurusolidarity.org. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Malika, and Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.